Do you hear that? Fucking stunning. Okay. Wow. Okay, interesting. I was thinking like, he sounds like he's classically trained. Kia ora and welcome. My name's Stevie and I'm your vocal coach for today because we're going to be taking a look at Lion Ceccah. I hope I just said that correctly. With Sólo, Quiero from Lithuania. Okay, I hope I just pronounced all of that correctly, but I'm sure you'll let me know. We're going to be taking a look. I don't know if this is I don't know who's singing this. If it's a performance, got no idea, never seen this before. So we're going to be taking a look. What are whoever's singing this up to with their vocal technique? What are they doing with this sound? And most importantly, how can you create these sounds? And do you know what? What a fantastic Eurovision, I have to say. The standard of singing is like astronomically high this year. And I'm really loving seeing all of these performers showing so many different styles and abilities within one show. And I'm really excited for the final. Let me know who you think is going to win in the comments. Okay, interesting. I was thinking like Freddie Mercury. Let's just go back on that. I always need a little bit of a moment when I first enter a song. Okay, we've definitely gone. I think it's always challenging when we've got like a breathy kind of voice quality and I don't know the singer's voice. I think that sounds like it's a chest voice with basically the vocal folds are open. Vocal folds are open, so we're getting that increase in the breath flow coming through. So that thyroid tilt there, we can hear a little bit more vocal fold closure. And that's what I'm meaning. Like, it sounds to me like it's chest voice because there wasn't a hell of a lot of difference between that breathy sound, like in terms of the quality of the sound. We're not hearing that hollowness that we would expect from falsetto going into da-da-ba-da. They've just taken the larynx a little bit lower in that moment. Okay, we're starting to get a little bit more into the singing. Can you hear that vibrato coming into the sound there? We're adding they're adding a little bit more pressure, I think, behind the vocal folds, a little bit more thickness. And we've got more thyroid tilt, and thyroid tilt is basically the Adam's apple where the vocal folds live in here. When it tilts forward, it makes the sound more sung because it adds stretch to the vocal folds.
Solo quiero más, even if we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero, solo quiero.
Okay. Wow. And then all of a sudden he's there. Okay. Let's just have a little look at this end because I wanted to have a look at this bit. When we're singing that low in the range, he's added a little bit of breath into the sound. That's what we need in order to get the larynx going low enough because the vocal folds are very short at that moment.
Even if we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero.
Okay, so we're hearing the ah, which is, you know, again, no shade on Leon. Is it Leon or Lion? I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong. So no shade whatsoever. There are so many singers that use that coloring technique, which is where we for example, Shakira, Anastasia, we've got like plenty of singers that do that. So what's happening there is it is a constriction of the root of the tongue, but also one of those upper constricted. Sometimes that can happen when we feel like we're reaching a kind of a ceiling of our, that's always my ceiling when I'm singing lessons, a ceiling of our chest voice. Let's do that again.
Quiero más, even if we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero más, solo quiero más.
There we go. And he curried, solo quiero más, and he opened up onto más, and we hear that vibrato coming in there. So, again, that's an artist's individual decision about whether they want to do that. But sometimes that can happen when we get a little bit nervous or excited. And solo quiero, and what we call in classical singing, covering the sound a little bit too much. So that's when we allowed the internal, I think it's usually from the tongue, but also from the soft palate coming down, that we don't go, it's sometimes a mixed match between the feeling of how quiet we need that sound to be internally and externally, and the throat just kind of closes up a little bit.
If we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero más. Solo quiero más. Even if we're living in a mad world.
And can you hear that difference? Then, even if we're solo quiero más, and he allowed that resonance then to open up. So this is really where I do not like to say to students, like, this is where the placement should be, but we're wanting to find a more open sound. Solo quiero más. So we would usually put that on the spectrum. Actually, that's exactly what we were doing yesterday inside the Vocal Academy. We were talking all about resonance, and we're actually looking at the spectrogram about how the effect of the internal feeling of the note affected the volume and the resonance with the spectrogram. It's very easy for us to see. When we're covering the note, often it can dampen the volume, which is what we heard. That sound was louder than the other one.
Even if we're living in a mad world, even if we're standing near the sky falls, solo quiero más, solo quiero más. Dolor y alegría, así es la vida. God englobó the source de tres con.
So many languages in this song. Let's just go back on that. So, solo quiero más. We're sort of seeing this chin movement coming forward there. That can sometimes be because when a singer is trying to, you know, when they're like vocally tired, actually, the tongue muscle kind of wants to join in. And so we're trying to fight with that tongue muscle a little bit. We can sometimes tend to bring the chin forward there. But again, I'm not a doctor. I am also not Leon's physiotherapist or any way, shape or form. I cannot say that that is what he is experiencing in that moment. I'm just saying, if a singer was standing in front of me and they were bringing their head forward, I would ask them to engage more in those back muscles to help stabilize the voice, because we feel as humans, this is stability, but actually that is stability.
Even if we're living in a mad world, even if we're standing near the sky falls, solo quiero más, solo quiero más. Dolor y alegría.
And that was the falsetto. Solo quiero más. You could hear that hollowness to the sound. What happens in falsetto, the vocal folds actually go stiff in that moment. Solo quiero más. There's very little vocal fold closure. It's just the very front of them touching. And that's why we don't want to shove extra air through it as well and go quite quiet.
Así es la vida, God envolve the source de tres condoms et film la doule que la musique unit some more.
Oh, that's actually, this is very, very, very similar to classical singing. In this moment, we've got loads of vibrato coming in, loads of thyroid. See, there in that moment, we've got quite a thick vocal fold closure, and you're going to hear that he backs off the volume to go into that higher section. We need to back off the vocal fold thickness in order to allow the vocal folds to thin as we go higher in the range. And that's why, actually, I said that and then he didn't do it. So if we don't want to back off the volume when we're going up, like when we're trying to go higher, that's what ends up happening. We go, and we flip into that falsetto a little bit easier. So again, that's a stylistic decision that an artist would make. Again, same thing there. Very small. Oh, he's allowed the vibrato to get a little bit wider. Now that type of vibrato, there are lots of different types of vibrati actually that we can use. When we've got the oh, and it's a little bit wide, that's generally the larynx actually moving up and down. But vibrato comes to us as singers. Vibrato is not something that we can force, because vibrato is something that occurs when we get the breath pressure and the vocal fold closure at like that sweet spot, and then vibrato will occur, and we can then go into our vibrato. We also can create vibrato by disrupting the sound at the back of the throat, which I think that one is right there. But again, it doesn't really matter which one it is. But if you were in singing lessons with me, I would want you to have a natural vibrato, because a lot of the time this vibrato where we get the oh, becomes quite slow and cumbersome as we get older.
Some more. Solo quiero más, even if we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero más. Solo quiero más, even if we're living in a mad world.
He sounds like he's classically trained, I have to say that. This sounds very classical to go, solo quiero más. That's full on classical singing right there. Why do I say classical singing? Because not only the vowel, mas, we've got the increase in the thyroid tilt as well as that vibrato and that oh. This is very typical tenor as well, that it kind of starts to sound a little bit, I'm going to say that and people are going to go, no, anyway, it sounds like this sort of like, as I said, this like lid on the sound. And then it's going, even if we're living in the mad world. I feel like that wider vowel is kind of doing him a disservice in terms of what he's trying to, what I feel like he's trying to do with his voice. Again, I don't know him, right? I don't from a piece of bread, you know? So he's just this beautiful singer on the Eurovision stage, and I'm sitting here in my office chatting with you about this thing. So I think if he was to add it, so like, even if we're living in a mad world, to not try and get, even if we're, to close that vowel off and to kind of piss around with that resonance at the top, I would have left the, so like, even, I would have left the E in the same resonance pocket as the R, because this is getting very technical.
Solo quiero más, even if we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for.
Because this is interesting. And again, He can do whatever he wants. Please, I know you need to know this. Okay, any singer can sing however way that they want. Okay, this is the thing. These are the things that a lot of singers come to me for, to say like, oh Zoe, this is kind of like feeling like it's straining. Even if we're living, we're hearing that even if we're, and I'm exaggerating. Sounds like there's this like tightening going on within the throat, and this is what I'm meaning with sounds like he's classically trained, because it's sounding like trying to make that straighter tone is what often with classical singers is often what causes that throat tension to come in when we try and make it less. Even if we're living in this mad world, if he had kind of kept it in that same feeling as that Sólo, Quiero más, it probably would have served him a little bit better in that moment.
Even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero más. Solo quiero más. Even
Do you hear that? Fucking stunning. Solo quiero más. To me, he could be singing Nessun Dorma for all I care. This is the like the classical tenor sound. That's what we want. We've got brightness. We've got a high out larynx, a little bit of that twang coming in there. We've definitely got a high velum, so the soft palate is high, and that's what we use to stabilize the soft palate. I'm doing this hand signals, but the soft palate, excuse me, I've got the hiccups today. Ugh. When the soft palate is closed, it allows like that resonance chamber at the back, but it also allows for a backboard to help sandwich the vocal folds together, because I left out a whole bunch of words in that sentence. When the velum is high, the sound can come off here, gets reflected from the velum back onto the vocal folds, and helps to sandwich the vocal folds close. That's my full sentence.
Solo quiero más. Even if we're living in a mad world, even if we're standing as the sky falls. Solo quiero más. Solo quiero más. Live the life of me.
So we're noticing here, though, that Leon doesn't have, or Lion, apologies again, doesn't quite have that stability that we've been hearing in other singers' voices. Now, I have zero idea what his experience is. Sounds like he's classically trained, though. But did you hear at the end, he was trying to go for notes that he couldn't quite hit, which again, he can do whatever he wants. I would not encourage my singers to do that on a stage. I always say, got to practice it. You got to know exactly what you got to sing. Don't try and reinvent the wheel at the beginning of your performance career, right? Like, you can change the song when you know it so well that there's no way that you can sing it incorrectly. But that was quite surprising, actually. Just don't try and do anything other than what you've just practiced. Like, no one is any the wiser.
Even if we're living in a mad world, even if there are no more gods to pray for. Solo quiero más. Solo quiero más. Even if we're living in a mad world, even if we're standing as the sky falls. Solo quiero más. Solo quiero más. Live the life of me. So share just the blue. Para solo de
Okay, I'm confused about the ending of the song. I don't know why you would need to do that. I mean, obviously we always think that we need to do something different. And I think this is where a lot of singers kind of go crook, is that they feel like they have to do something different. And that's where they try and reinvent the wheel, or they try and change the melody. Now, again, I am not Leon's vocal coach. I am not his doctor or anything like this. This is what I would expect to experience, like to have from a singer who was maybe struggling a little bit vocally on the day, maybe recovering from a cold, or maybe just honestly, like even with myself today, like literally a week after a cold and still experiencing a lot of vocal fatigue, you know, like this could just be so many different things going on there. And in those situations, I always say to my singers, play it safe. Play it safe so that you know for certain that that's going to come out, because that was a kind of a messy note going on there. But again, perfect example of how even on the biggest stages in the world, these things can happen. And I love that we can see this because it shows you that he is a human, and that's what makes it so beautiful. He's trying to get more resonance. He's trying to get more resonance on the sound by opening up the vowel. When we open up the vowel and we're higher in the range and we're in that thicker vocal fold, that can, and I'm meaning opening up the vowel, basically like opening up the mouth, but also going from an when we go into more of a yell posture, that can sometimes happen to kind of like click the vowel a little bit more, or the sound to have it sit in a better placement. That's something I'd need to show you like on the spectrogram to show you where the formants go and which formant we're trying to boost in terms of that kind of sound. This is something that we can actually see really, really clearly on the spectrogram. It's through a software called Sing and See, which I work with a lot. I've used it since I was learning to sing many, many moons ago. There's actually a link down in the description below. Like, full disclosure, I use this everywhere in my studio. All of my singers in the Vocal Academy get a license for it. It is one of the most important pieces of software when it comes to singing, because more than often, everybody says to me, Zoe, I don't actually know how to practice when I'm at home. I don't know if it's right or if it's wrong. You don't need to, because there's like a computer program to tell you as well. Like, and it's not AI. It's a very, very old interface, but you know, we don't fix what is not broke. Get myself muddled up there. You can check it out. It's called Sing and See. Check it out in the description below. I also send you then like a thing about how you can use it. And also finding that pocket. So when we go into those slightly more open vowels and open up into the or that yell, but we're hearing it sort of getting that yell kind of texture to it. Again, this can happen when we start to try and sing too loud or go for that sound that we're wishing to make. And then you can hear he pulls it. Sólo quiero más. Goes back to what he knows. And this is where we're starting to get that smoothness back in the sound. I feel like he wants to go higher though. You can hear that at the end, that kind of like calling out. That's what we were hearing in the song as well. But we're hearing he's kind of there we go. So too much volume behind the sound does what we call, and I know it's not a scientific word, it's actually just literally we call it over singing, when we try and put too much volume into the sound, and that's what ends up happening. The sound gets a little bit distorted. It goes a tiny bit out of tune actually, more often than not. It just becomes a little bit unstable. This is totally normal when we start to get a little bit excited or a little bit nervous, or like the end of the song, we drop our feeling of the support of the sound, and this is quite normal. Because also, as we're building the song, he's trying to get louder, and then at the end of the song, we're like, oh God, we can't get even louder than that. And then that's what can sometimes happen. I need to have a look at those lyrics though. I don't speak Spanish. Or any of the other languages. I heard a couple of other, I heard English in there, but I heard a couple of others. Was it Italian or something? And probably as well bit of Russian as well. Such fantastic performance. Again, vocally, I'm not really 100% sure that this was probably the strongest of the performances, but these things happen. That's the beauty of Eurovision, that we're seeing a range of performers, and it's not just always about having these super, super famous performers like Delta Gudrun, for example, being on there, or singers like Sarah Engels from Germany, who are already professional singers, and on stage all the time. So this beautiful performance, well done, fantastic. So let me know down in the comments who you think is going to win Eurovision. I'd love to hear from you. You can check out some more Eurovision up here. And if you could do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, because it really does help me. I'm a full-time singing teacher. If you'd like to talk about singing lessons, then you can apply using the link in the description below, because working on these higher belts and feeling like you can reach higher in the range, go higher with your sound, that is honestly my specialty. And working especially to make sure that it feels good and you like the sound of it without pressurizing the voice. But that is what I wish for you. So have an awesome rest of your day. Happy singing. Mwah! Ka kite anō.